It's a British car builder you've never heard of. And yet, no matter what hypercar you look at from any manufacturer, it can take the fight to it and win. This is Ultima. Ultima began in 1983 as a racing division by Noble Motorsports. And let's just say the Ultima Mark I, as it was called, wasn't exactly high quality. It had a 2.6-liter V6 from a Renault 30, which made 126 horsepower. And that's just the start of it. The transaxle was also from a Renault 30. The radiator was from an Austin Princess. The front brakes were from a Mark III Ford Cortina. And the rear brakes were from a Lancia Beta. Yeah, it was terrible. I'm sorry to say, but it was terrible. Although it did have gullwing doors, which makes it an instant win. So, fast forward from a year later. They got rid of that puny Renault 30 V6 with a Ford 3.1-liter V6. And they finally went motor racing in 1984. And, well, many teams saw the 3.1-liter Ford and went, that's cool, but I want more. So they went for a Formula 5000 engine from Chevrolet, a big old V8, which meant it was rather good. They begun racing all over England in various championships, and it won a lot. And 5 years later, the Mark III came out. This used the same space frame chassis from the Mark II, and while it was still offered from the factory, air quotes, as it was a Renault V6, the ones that were successful in motor racing were using Chevy big block V8s. And by competing in racing, I mean dominating. It won 5 championships in a row. That's stupid. It lapped the field on numerous times. Do you realize how hard it is to lap a field? Unfortunately, they were cursed by their own success. And they were deemed too fast compared to the rest of the competition, and they were banned in 1991. Yikes. But the racer who was using it, Ted Marlowe, bought a Mark III chassis from and then re-engineered it to accept a Porsche 4-speed transmission and a 5.7-liter Chevy V8. And for the first time, that meant we have a road-legal Ultima. Yeah. And in fact, that racer guy, Ted, he was rather successful and he had some good change. So he bought Ultima from Noble in 1992 and began selling Mark III kits to buy. And a whopping 13 were sold by 1993, including 1 in the US. So they're starting to branch out internationally almost immediately. That's pretty good. And by 1993, they had enough finances to make a new car, the Ultima Spider. This thing was a convertible monster, although it didn't start out like that. It started out with a Rover V8, and then they went, hang on, that's a terrible idea. So they went back to the Chevy V8, making 355 horsepower, 405 foot-pounds of torque. In a car weighing just 900 kilograms, because this is England land for you lot, it did 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. And in this period of 40 years, they had sold 100 of them. That's not bad for a little European group working out of a shed. And finally, they were selling cars that you didn't have to build. Wait, what? Yeah, you see, technically, Ultima doesn't really make cars. Air quotes. You can offer more money for a higher fee for them to build you a car. Otherwise, you will buy all the bits, all the pieces, and then you assemble it yourself, kind of like a really big Lego set. Helps for a lot of reasons. First, it cuts costs, because you don't need a lot of workers, and it cuts the price of the car, meaning it's far cheaper than anything else. Well, that will come into effect later on. But following the success of the Spider, they made a new car, the Can-Am, in 2000, using again a 300 horsepower Chevy V8. It is 20 kilograms heavier though, but the chassis was designed for 1,000 horsepower, which means you could put in any engine you wanted as long as it made just under 1,000 horsepower. And that got Ultima thinking, what if we make a really fast car? Enter the GTR. At the Targa Tasmania 2,000 kilometer road rally. And the GTR went into production in 2002. And it's called the GTR, but it's officially called the GTR 640. Now, what does the 640 mean? Well, 640 horsepower. It had a top speed of 230 miles an hour. And it was the first production car in the world to do 0 to 100 miles an hour and back to 0 in under 10 seconds. Beating out Bugatti, Koenigsegg, Hennessy, the whole shebang. Not bad for a car made out of a shed. Well, now as a factory, because the Ultima GTR is becoming a success, so they started moving to a new location. And if you think the 640 was nuts, they're just getting started, because the GTR 720 came out with, you guessed it, 720 horsepower, in a car weighing less than 2,300 pounds. Or a roughly 1,000 kilograms. It did the standing quarter mile in 10.5 seconds and reached a top speed of 225 plus. That's nuts, because it's got a rear wing and everything. And that rear wing is quite useful, because it pulls 1.2 G in the skid pad. It's not just a straight line speed car, it can handle. In fact, on an independently verified lap of the Top Gear test track, it set a 1:13 second lap, which is a second faster than any other road car ever went around the test track up to that point. And remember how I said the last one had a chassis ready for 1,000 horsepower? Well, this one is 2,000 horsepower. And a car tuning company in Romania called Black Falcon Cars wanted to test that. So they put in a V8 with 1,716 horsepower into an Ultima GTR, and it was able to control it. That's freaking nuts. But that was a tuning company. Ultima couldn't be bested by a tuning company. No. So they made the Ultima Evolution in 2015. This was a complete redesign from the car, okay? The base model, which you could buy for around $55,000, has 400 horsepower and a current weight of just 2,100 pounds. That's pretty darn good. But we're not here talking about base models here, fellas. No. We need the top of the line, the 1020. How much power does that make? No, not much. Just 1,020 horsepower from a supercharged Chevy V8. It does 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, 0 to 150 in under 9, the quarter mile in 9.2 seconds, and it has a top speed of 240 plus miles an hour. It's gone from supercar to hypercar. Real fast. And it costs 140 grand if you build it yourself. And this is not some chintzy track-only monster. It's got air conditioning, phone connectivity, sat-nav, leather seats. It's a semi-comfortable place to be. And it does 240 miles an hour for 140K. Is this even physically possible? To put that into perspective, you could have a Corvette ZR1 for 135K. Or, you could have an Ultima GTR 1020, which goes 40 miles an hour faster than the Corvette, gets to 60 half a second faster, and has 300 more horsepower. That's nuts. But Ultima wants more. In 2019, they unveiled at Goodwood the Ultima RS, set for production in 2020. It was inspired not by the road cars, but by Le Mans Group C racers. It utilizes full carbon fiber construction and features a Chevy V8 making 480, oh, that's the bottom one, sorry, 1,200 horsepower. It expects 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds, 0 to 100 in under 5. You could go from 0 to the top speed of a Toyota Camry in under 5 seconds. That's nuts. Even with the aggressive spoilers, the knock-a-ducks, the splitters, the vortex generators, it still has a top speed in excess of 250 miles an hour. And all that downforce, when you tune it right, can produce 2,200 pounds of it. That's almost the weight of the car. And how much does this ultimate performance car cost? Oh, about the price of a new BMW M3. These guys are ballistic, and here's the best part. I'm not gonna name names for Ferrari, tend to make cars that are good, and then they intentionally make them worse so they can sell a better version later on, like the 458 and the 458 Speciale, or the Diablo and the Diablo SV, or something like that. Well, here's the best thing about Ultima. They don't want that. They have no future plans after the Ultima RS, because, quote, they want to respect their customers. They do not want to have their customers spend $150,000 or whatever on a top-of-the-line race car, only to be trumped by another car they make just 2 years later. Because that would be a waste of investment, and they don't want that. They want their customers to feel satisfied with their investment years in the future, and I respect that. I respect that. You've probably never even seen an Ultima outside of video games. And that's a shame, because they're not only some of the fastest, best handling, monstrous vehicles ever in the world, but they're budget friendly. They're customer focused. They actually give a crap about people. And for a company, that's kind of amazing. So, if we can all do one thing heading into 2020, it's to give Ultima the recognition they deserve for being the underdog that can go toe-to-toe with the Koenigseggs and the Bugattis and the Ferraris of the world and brush it off the shoulder and say, I want more.